branching out a bit for today's episode to speak with local, inspiring woman and one of my very own mentors from the North Carolina Food Youth Initiative, Bevelyn Ukah.
Hi everybody, my name is Bevelyn Afor Ukah. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia originally. My father is Nigerian, from Ohafia, Nigeria, and my mom is from High Point, North Carolina. So I live currently in Greensboro, North Carolina, and do work across the state around food systems. And I decided to move to North Carolina because I feel that I was called to come back to my ancestral home on my mom's side. And yeah, so my identity influences a lot on what it is that I do and how I do it.
And what would you say drives you?
Ooh, I think the same thing. I feel that I've learned recently that that it's okay not to be ashamed about the fact that I want to make my family proud. It used to be kind of a hidden drive for me that I was really afraid of allowing to open up, but it was a drive that drove me. And so honestly, to making my family proud really matters, but not just my family that's on earth, but doing work that honors my ancestors. And I just want to shout out Mama Mary and Obogo Odide and Afor and Olaka, Okwara, Ibim. And I'd also like to shout out Ida and Walter and Uncle Norman. I hope that I'm doing you all, making you all proud. And on my paternal side, my grandmother was a businesswoman and an artist. An artist of people, but she was a farmer and did created a lot of structures that gave people in her community the opportunity to farm and work when it was off season. And so she was given a chieftaincy that meant she who gives when no one has. And I really, when I first heard that story, when I took my voyage back home to Nigeria at 25, it changed my life because it felt very connected to what it is that I hope to bring to my everyday life, to try to make sure that I'm collectively building abundance. Not just with a collective, but as I have abundance, making sure that there are mechanisms to share that abundance in community.
That's so beautiful.
And so, thank you, Obogo Dide. And then also on my maternal side, my great-grandfather was a sharecropper and didn't have access to his own land. And so land access feels really in line with my values, but not necessarily even in the sense of owning it, but just challenging this whole idea of ownership and ownership of land, while also trying to get some land, though, trying to get some land so that we can collectively be better stewards of our relationship with the natural environment, and also of human beings, and understanding that we as human beings are the natural environment. And so, I just wanted to shout out my great-grandmother and my great-grandfather on each side, because, they were doing this work, but didn't have the resources that I have, maybe to be as effective as I am, but I think they were pretty effective, because,
Sounds like it. Now, you dabble in a lot of work from art to equity consulting. How does your diverse form of expression contribute to building a community based on open conversations of racial equity and mindfulness?
Thank you so much for asking that question. I think that's a hard question for me to answer. One, because I don't like evaluations. And a lot of people who work with me know I do believe in assessment, though. I do believe in staying in relationship, that it is an indicator of success when we are in continuous relationship with one another and sharing resources. And I feel that the way that I go about, how I go about my work is less so about outcomes and more so about gleaning beautiful creations in collaboration with other people. So a lot of what I do is in collaboration with other folks and being able to share our talents in order to make sure that more people have access. So, for example, this weekend we're doing a youth gathering, and when we're in the planning process, I've been doing this for 7 years now, and when we're in the planning process, a few of my colleagues were kind of like, we have to get this done, we have to get this done, we have to get this done. And over the past 7 years, I'm like, there are things that need to get done, but once those things are in place, everything else, it's just like a container. Everything else is going to work itself out if we are dedicated to the principles of everyone who comes to this space brings a knowledge system or knowledge systems that are powerful. And so how is it, instead of, trying to glean a specific outcome, how is it possible for us to make people feel a sense of belonging so that they naturally feel an invitation to share their knowledge system, share who they are in their very being? And so I think that racial equity workshops or doing experiential learning or practicing art collectively, those are tools. But ultimately, the goal is to build a sense of belonging, knowing that that is going to yield. I don't even like that word yield, but that's going to end up being something that is more powerful than any of us could ever imagine.
Yeah. How do you think this ties in with food justice?
Okay, so food justice or food ties into everything because food nourishes us and it connects us with our environment, and vice versa. We feed into our environment like breathing in, and we receive from our environment like breathing out, or vice versa. And so food and water and love and creativity and creation are the things that we all need. And so it's really interesting when building curriculums for food justice work because, some might assume that food justice is always at the front of mind or food is always at the front of mind. But it doesn't have to be because it's in our every being, and we can relate every single system and every single person and every single piece of our environment to food and nourishment. And so I think that that's one of the most powerful platforms to do social justice work and to do ecology work because it connects us all. The Food Youth Initiative program, which is a program of the Center for Environmental Farming Systems. And it's actually weird to call it a program because it's really more similar to an organism or a system of relationships. The Food Youth Initiative is a network of youth groups that are across the state and who are also in relationship with some folks that are in our country. And each of the youth groups are doing some sort of work that is bringing more food justice into their communities and also spreading awareness around the importance of food justice and access. These youth groups are also doing a lot of work around climate justice and building an understanding that our work needs to take place centering folks that are most and worst impacted. Most of the youth that are a part of the Food Youth Initiative are folks that with tremendous experiences and tremendous stories that are oftentimes marginalized in mainstream culture or in mainstream spaces. So the Food Youth Initiative is also a platform for these amazing youth to come together from all these different corners to share their stories with one another.
Why do you believe it's so important to engage youth in advocating for food and environmental justice?
Because youth rock, and they are the ones that make change in our world. And also, youth are full of surprises, and I think a lot of that, people are, but the way that youth can shock the system, shock my system, or shock the system of a given society, is really powerful. And I think part of the reason why that's so possible is because so many people underestimate youth. Keep on underestimating youth and watch. And that's how it is. So I feel that I feel that working with youth, I'm going to live a longer life. So that's very that's a very personal, selfish point of view, I guess you can say. But also as a youth myself, I remember what it felt like to not be heard or listened to and for my peers to not be heard and listened to because of our age. And I also know what it felt like to be fully supported and seen by people who are older. Thank you so much for this interview. And I think that what I would like to leave with is ultimately I have felt that over the past 3 years or 2 years since the pandemic, that my life has dramatically changed for the better, because I've now started to come into my body through this art practice. And so the last thing I would like to share with folks is do some art, or do something that you enjoy creating. Create something and share it, because it's a game changer. And I also want to say Ariana is so amazing, and I'm so appreciative of this opportunity to spend this weekend and the rest of the mural project with them.
Thank you.
Thank you.